Alright, hello. Well, welcome, guys, to something that I am trying out myself, and I think it might actually work out well for me. It is something that I'm calling Game to Podcast. And what it really is just once I've already played through a game, as you've already seen if you've gone through this, you've seen that I've played a game, I've recorded and uploaded it, and all the way from start to finish on my channel. And then after that, I think it would be pretty interesting and also really fun to just sort of talk about the game that I've just played, and who knows, maybe people could chime in on the comment section as well to see whether or not they liked or disliked about this kind of stuff that either I'm going to talk about or seeing what ways they can improve upon it. But also with the podcast of talking about all this stuff and just seeing how it goes, I also wanted to go ahead and just maybe give my own ideas of what would actually make it better too. So just overall talking about what the game had to offer, what was in store, what about the story, basically everything that is a part of the game, and then stuff that I feel would be better off if it was improved. So, hey, sit down, strap in, grab your favorite energy drink. I've already done that myself, and give it a listen if you like. But what we're going to be going with on the very first game to podcast is Fallout 4. Now, yeah, Fallout 4, it was a good game. It was definitely a great game, but also too with this game, when I first started out, uh, I was under the impression that it was going to be like Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, those types of games, or even just Fallout 1. But the way that this one started out, I was just kind of like, okay, it's fine, I'll forgive it. Maybe it'll continue on and get a bit better. But as you first start out in the game, what happens is just you go through like this first cutscene where it's a live action cutscene, and don't get me wrong, the first time when you see that live action cutscene, it's pretty awesome. It almost makes you feel like, I wonder if they're gonna make a Fallout movie like this, because this would be pretty interesting. But just as you continue along with the game, and just like once you finally do it, and even if you want to try and replay the game, you find out that that intro has like nothing to do with the game at all. It's just memeing basically, and where it's just like war never changes, and that's going to be something else I'm going to bring up later on with that whole thing right there. But once you get through that, once you get through the one cutscene, you get the second cutscene, which is the playable cutscene. And that's pretty interesting of sorts, because you go ahead and you just customize your character, and you just go ahead and customize not only you, but you also customize your spouse, whether it be a man or a woman. And like the very first time around, it's also a little confusing, like what's going on with this, because I would have liked it if it was a bit more direct and just go, okay, so you want to play a man, here's a man, or if you want to play a woman, here's a woman. I think that would have been like the best thing, so that way then, because it seems like a few people had a few confusing things. I've seen one or two people playing it as well, but it felt like it was also a bit like, okay, I don't really know what I'm doing, so I'm just going to wing it, because it's like, yeah, I want to play a man, but I'm also going to customize the woman. And then it's just like, once I'm done, it's like, no, wait, I chose the woman. I chose wrong. It's just like, it would have been great if it was just had that straight up Pokemon thing of just like, are you a boy or are you a girl? And then once they do that, then just continue on with the game. I know that would have broken you out of the immersion, but that's another thing that I want to talk about with immersion with this game. But it would have been fine if that broke it. As long as I know what I'm doing and what's going to be in store, I'd be totally fine if immersion was broken. But yeah, continuing on as well, once you finally go ahead with the customization too, some people complain about there's not being any sliders, and it's just like, oh, you moving and manipulating it and stuff, and that, once again, I'm fine with. It's something new, it's something unique, especially with customization of the characters, and that's just like, okay, that's just like a tiny complaint. People just pissing and moaning over like the nitty gritty stuff, and it's just like I've already stopped paying attention to those people. If you want to complain about something as trivial as sliders, yes, if you love sliders, go back to playing Fallout New Vegas or Fallout 3 or or even like Oblivion and stuff like that too. They had the sliders, they were good, they were great. But this right here, it also has something interesting to it, because then it shows what you're actually gonna do. And yeah, they decide to go with the ridiculous, because like I don't know why. Like I don't know why they decided to go with the ridiculous, but it's like, sure. It's like it's not really hurting anything, but it's not really helping anything either. It's just there, and it's like, yeah, you can make your characters look super fugly and stuff like that too, and it's kind of interesting, just like making your character look like a fucked up, diseased ghoul, before the bombs dropped, and then once the bombs drop, it's like, oh, that makes sense now. I look really fucked up. This is kind of cool looking. Just like junk like that too. I've seen a few things too where people are like, oh, how about this Deadpool build? And it's just like, how about you show me actually building Deadpool? That would have been kind of cool. Just like stuff like that. Just I haven't really seen that much cool stuff, but I did see like someone made like a Danny Trejo character, and that's like that fits perfectly with Fallout because there's machetes, so you can be like Danny Trejo, grab a machete and just start like slashing things up, and that's pretty cool. It would have been nice also too when you were customizing this junk if you could go ahead and just change up the character's voice. Because sometimes, when you have like a really mangled looking character, but you have like that same happy go lucky voice, it doesn't really work. It would have been nice if there was like multiple choices when it came to the audio stuff, especially since they were pushing audio for this and your character could actually speak for the very first time instead of being a silent protagonist. I know some people might say that's going overboard, but I only say that because this game came out around 2015, and there are games back in like 2012, 2013 that had audio in it. They didn't have like full speaking moments, mind you. It's just like every now and then stuff. So it was like scattered moments where they talk. And the game that I'm talking about with this is Fire Emblem Awakening. So it would have been nice then if, since Bethesda wanted your character to be a not so silent protagonist, if they would have just had different voices as well, but then also to sort of like gradually brought in all the voices instead of making them talk all the time. They should have just made it to where like there was important moments in where you would talk, and then once you got to like other stuff where it's just like a settlement needs your help, I'll mark it on your map. There's no reason for like a scroll wheel for that because they're already gonna force you down that path. It's not like you could say no, or if you do say no, your settlement's going to have a negative inhibitor or whatever. It's not like you could just send them on their own to do it themselves, So it's just like either way, you're forced to do it. If not, you're going to get something negative for it, even when you want to jump into the story. But I'm getting ahead of myself, but this is stuff that all mingles together. And where like with audio, with voices, since this is like the first time your character could actually talk, it would have been nice if there was a big variety of voices that could talk. Maybe something to where like you hear someone with a craggly voice just going, "What are you looking at, smooth skin?" Just like something like that, especially if you really wanted to make a fugly looking character, or if you wanted to make like a chick and somehow get that voice so that way then it sounds like Dr. Girlfriend from Venture Brothers, something like that would have been really interesting. But also having just multiple voices would really help out because then it would have given a bigger variety, and I think then people would have gotten more attached to their characters instead of just trying something and then making a character and his voice doesn't really seem to work with it. Along with that too, the female character just didn't seem to also work with this as well. The times when there were moments of like anger or distress, it didn't really feel like the voice actor was really into it. So that's the reason why I mainly focused on male characters while playing this game, because just like the actor seemed to really emote. And that was something that I actually did enjoy. And actually, it brought me more into the immersion, but there was stuff in the game that also kept pulling me back out. So it was a give and take, but I actually enjoyed the male voice actor's character, his voice, a lot more compared to the female one. But yeah, got to back up a bit as well. But continuing on, once you make your character, and like I said before, it would have been nice if there was a simple implication like, this is your character, okay? So guess what? Your character's gonna be, a male, and then you could just go ahead and tweak around. And even if you were on the female character, you would still just go ahead and just have, it would still just bring you back to the male character, would have been helpful. But also, too, just continuing on, once you've done that and you're just going throughout that stuff and you're seeing like like this playable cutscene and junk, it would have been great if instead of having the first cutscene, if they just removed that and just in the playable cutscene, it's just you and your spouse just having banter back and forth of why there's floating cars and robots and like why the world is in such this futuristic state, or also too just having stuff to interact with that like makes the story go off, like going like all of a sudden just like they're in this happy utopian society, but just like have a newspaper where it shows like resources are getting slim or there's fighting in the streets or whatever, and then just have that audio cue moment between the two people, you and your spouse, and where they're just like, oh look, civil unrest, and it's just like this is what's happening with the fact that resources are getting slim. I guess we're all having to tighten our belts. Something like that would have been better, because then we could have gotten all that banter in the playable cutscene, as well as just seeing them in just like a normal, happy family before, like the bombs dropped, because they really wanted to like focus on this, and I'm kind of hesitant on this as well, because I'll get into it in a little bit more, but just continuing on with just like the whole thing of like, yeah, you go through, you make a character, you talk to like the guy who tells you about all this stuff, and it's just like this is your first interaction with the play wheel and junk, but it's just like I don't know if I really like all this. It would have been better. I don't know, for me, like if you had that moment where instead they were just like these characters, and where we only saw like the back of them or whatever, or like silhouettes, and then there was just like a baby, and just had like you never really saw like the faces of the characters. You just only saw like it was a man and a woman, and just like you all of a sudden just like you saw like air raids going off, and you get like this dramatic like scene of like the suns in their eyes almost, but you only see like the back of their bodies, but it's like really really dark because of shadowing, but you hear like the air raids going off, that the bombs are going to drop, so like they grab the baby, the two of them, just you see them running, and it's just more or less like up close to like chest height, or just seeing like up close to where the feet are running up pathway up to the vault, since you know that they're going to get in, because your character's not going to die. Of course, they wouldn't do that to you. But that would have been more dramatic as well. And then just once you finally get on the platform, you see like the bombs drop, and there's the big mushroom cloud, but there's everyone in like the dark silhouette of seeing it. So you don't know really who they are. And just like if you got that big emotional cutscene like that, that would have like you could have cut off all the other cutscenes and then just like continue on within the level. But I want to jump back into the game more, because there's more to this. Because now I want to actually get back into the actual part that was in the game. Once you're finally down into the vault as well, they tell you, here's your suit, here's your little decontamination pod, which is really a cryo freezer. Stuff like that. And it's just like all of a sudden, once you go into the cryo freezer, everyone freezes, your spouse freezes, and that's when, of course, you see the big bad guy, which everyone knows is Kellogg, who goes over there with like some egghead and like this whole biohazard suit, trying to take the baby out of your spouse's arms, and then all of a sudden Kellogg just blows, your spouse's brains out. And just seeing that like the very first time for me seeing that was something that was really emotional. But like also when you saw my recording of it, I wasn't really shocked. The reason why was because I had to re-record my stuff. I didn't know about the save feature in the game, which was another problem. I know I keep jumping around this, but it's just like it was another save feature in there. I had no idea you could have multiple save features with multiple characters of different names, and you would just load the character. I thought it was all on one big list, so I didn't know. So I deleted all my videos, and then I restarted, because I tried to do one on Twitch, and then I tried doing one on YouTube, but it was just a big hassle. So I just did it all on YouTube. And just that by itself. But I want to go back into the game now. But yeah, that emotional moment of where your character sees your spouse get their head blown off, or a bullet lodged in their brain and they die. And then just after that, coming back to and just trying to go over there and dramatically trying to like see about everything. It's just like it felt like the male character was just more panicking, even though we all knew what was going to happen. Because, we saw a bullet go to their brain. But yeah, maybe somehow, they survived, because that's what happened in New Vegas, right? Maybe this was also Bethesda's way of just going, see this ridiculousness with New Vegas, we can outdo it better. We can make a more dramatic thing. It's just like, you don't get to survive a bullet to the head. I don't know, but like that whole thing as well, it was just something. And it was just also really a good piece right there, but I don't know. Just the whole thing of like Vault-Tec and everything else too. It also felt way too convenient. Like here's the guy at the doorstep. Now you get into the vault. It should have automatically been known that you were already going to the vault. They should have just had that banter and where it was just like instead of having this guy telling you, okay, now you're able to go into the vault. It's just like, no, you're already in the vault. It would have like stopped this weirdness of like, oh, this is convenient. It would have just been like, no, we're in the vault because of my years of service, and like my spouse was in there too because we're married, like much the same way if you picked a female character, courtesy of my husband's many years of service, our family gets into the local vault, something like that. But that's also a little weird too, story wise, especially when you're on the brink of World War III here. Military men and women, soldiers, they're a dime a dozen. So it doesn't really make a sense why, because of your husband's many years of military experience, you would instantly be stuck in a vault like this when it's supposed to be like scientists and, like survivalists or people who, like, once the bombs drop and once, radiation has calmed down, you'd be able to somehow fix society and make it better and just fix these problems. Something of that nature. But it's kind of odd with that whole soldier thing because, yeah, like I said, they're a dime a dozen. You wouldn't have another soldier even when the bombs drop. There's so many soldiers. It's weird. Unless, they came up with a thing of just going, okay, me and like this other person's our military experience, we would be the soldiers of the group and we would protect them. Something of that nature. That would make sense. But yeah, once you finally go and continue on going back into the game now, once you continue on with all this stuff and you see like everyone's dead now courtesy of this, it's never really explained. And then you just go through, they put you through the motions of like fighting and stuff. Like here you go, right trigger, right bumper allows you to go ahead and just do a power attack. I don't know why you would want to do a power attack. They're so slow and chuggy. It would have been nice if there was a perk that allows you to swing faster and then makes like the power attack swing faster so it does more damage and then swings faster later on down the road, especially if you're using like big heavy weapons, just to see them swing even faster so that way then the connect would have been pretty cool. But also too, maybe just get rid of it instead because everyone's just going to keep hitting right trigger in the heat of the moment. No one's really thinking tacticianly about like, okay, if I hit him here now and then I do a power attack, it's like, no, we're just going to be swinging, we're spamming that right trigger. Courtesy of playing so many first person shooter games ourselves, our instinct is just keep hitting that right trigger until it dies, until it dies, until it dies, something like that. But, once that's all said and done or whatever, and you go through all that stuff and you get your Pit-Boy able to unlock the vault, which was like that cool cinematic moment, and then brought back up to the surface, it was all really, really interesting. Although, like I said before, like when I was talking about how like the cutscene and where you would show like going back to my idea of what would make this better was having the dramatic moment of like always having like the body shots or with the baby in hand just to show that the baby's important, and then just like silhouette figures, especially during the sunlight, hearing the air raids and like up close of like the footprints running up the path and making it to the top, and then just seeing the mushroom cloud and us and just shadowy figures. That would have all been like one big cutscene, and then finally you see like once you've already chosen that you want to either be a man or a woman, you see your spouse die. But then after that too, that's when you would start customizing your character, just seeing them in the freezer. So you just see like the box of their head in the freezer, and you just make the facial feature, and then just have like a simple way of seeing like a scan of the body if you want to do body work. But just like basically just keeping the head in the freezer just to see only that facial structure and feature, and then just work off of that. I think that would have been pretty cool to start making your character right there, because then he would have been popped out of the freezer, and then you'd start going through all this stuff. To me, that would have been better, and there would have been less of these need of these cutscenes and stuff. And then also, too, just as soon as you pop on your Pit Boy, that's when you get to choose your specials. You get to choose all that special stuff, and where it's just like how much strength or perception or endurance or yada 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 of what your character would be. That's all that would happen as soon as you put on your Pit Boy. That way, then people could get like once you pop out, you get the rush of using like your weapons. You go through the vats and stuff like that too, and then after that too, you finally go through and get your special stuff. I think that would have been better because then you would have popped open the vault and everything would have worked, and I think it would have flowed a bit more or flowed better. So that way, then there's not like this stop and go stuff right here, or stopping, seeing all this stuff, and then just like, oh look, Codsworth knows your name, and he's got so many names. Because like if you choose the wrong name, it's still just like a sir or a ma'am, and it's not like any of the other characters down the road also use your exact same name. So I didn't really like the fact that they wasted all that time talking about how like oh, Codsworth knows your name if you choose the right name, because it doesn't really add anything. It's like, oh my god, you said the name of the character that I chose. And like I've seen other stuff that people do, and it was kind of funny seeing like all the many names that Codsworth could say, and I salute the person whoever made that compilation, because that is a lot of names, and I'm guessing that was really tedious, but I salute you, sir or ma'am, for doing that. So yeah, there's like stuff like that, and then once you're finally all done with the playable cutscenes and seeing all the other junk like that too, and once you finally get in there, and sometimes it would be nice if you could have skipped those cutscenes, especially if you're replaying the game. But once you're all done with that and you're finally out into the open world, it's just like, okay, this is interesting. When you look at the stuff too, it doesn't really feel like a bomb dropped there. I think it would be interesting if they made the map and then they mapped areas of where bombs dropped, just so that way then they could start working on level design to make it seem like, oh, okay, these trees are blown away courtesy of the blast, or this house is destroyed courtesy of the blast, stuff like that. Sometimes it just felt like, okay, this is just a giant rust bucket place. Big deal. Okay, let's continue on with the game. It didn't really feel like it was a radioactive area, and it didn't really feel like you were doing, or like finding much of a radioactive world. We've seen like all those old footages of like the mushroom clouds and like these buildings get blown away, or you see the trees blown away and just how they act and junk like that too. It just would have been kind of interesting too if like that exact same stuff would have worked, or if they went over to like places that have already been hit by radiation, such as Chernobyl, and just like investigated those, or seen all that radiation stuff, or just seen all those places and just seen how they left it, and then just started taking that stuff and then implementing it into the game would have been really cool. But also, yeah, just continuing on. And once you're finally down there and you see like Sanctuary and you meet Codsworth, you shoot a couple bugs and you find out that your son's not here. Um, Once again, you're going through the scroll wheel again while talking with Codsworth, and there's that whole thing with speechcraft, and where it's just like, yellow is ease, or like green always happens, yellow is easy, orange is medium, and red is like hard, and it's just like, okay, you kind of dumb down speech, and I hate it. I hate to say that you dumbed it down. I really hate it when people say like these games are like dumbed down, but this is dumbed down. It doesn't really feel like there's a percentage or there's really a need for speech, and it's just like, okay, go through it, just like, okay, press your luck. I don't even know how the percentage works on that. Maybe the same way too. Maybe, like a 33% chance of failure when it's at 11, 66 if it's that, or like you need like 99% for the others. It's just like, I don't know, it's just like red, or it's like yellow, orange, and red. It just really felt kind of dumbed down. It would have been nice if there was like another bubble in where if my speech was high enough, you just see like charisma, like you would need charisma 9 for this interaction on those 4 points. And if you do have charisma 9, it's like, oh, instantly going to happen then. Sweet. None of this randomizer stuff. And just like hope for the best. especially when you don't give us that many options compared to like a list that they've showed in the past games. It would have been nice then if it was just like, okay, you needed charisma 4 for this to work then instead, or you needed like charisma 8 for this to work, something like that. They still had moments like that with intelligence, especially if you went through the USS Constitution. If you wanted to start repairing stuff, if your intelligence was high enough, it would have been nice if they did that also for charisma, because charisma and luck in this game, they really tried to buff up, using League of Legends terms here. They really tried to buff those up, and then like intelligence, they really tried to nerf down. So they really try to up, charisma and luck. And luck, when it's been buffed up like this, it's actually really good. I'm actually quite surprised, so I started enjoying luck. There's only one thing with luck I didn't like. It was Idiot Savant, but I'll get into that later. But moving on back again is just also continuing on with like the scroll wheel and like the whole charisma thing. It was like the scroll wheel was kind of interesting, but like the first thing that I think about when I look at a scroll wheel now is I played Mass Effect, so I instantly think Mass Effect. I'm sorry, Fallout 4 or Bethesda and everyone else, but it's just like the first thing that pops into my mind. I also felt like Mass Effect, even the first Mass Effect, they did it way better than Bethesda did with Fallout 4, because with Mass Effect it was just like, okay, this, they made sure to word the text properly so you knew exactly what they were implying, but then the characters actually said something completely different. And that myself I enjoy. I really do, Unlike this one, in where it was just like, okay, they're gonna say that they kicked their ass, and like, yeah, kick their ass, or don't worry, I'll take care of that. Even though in the text it says, don't worry, I'll take care of it. It's like stuff like that. It's like it makes it so that way then I'm okay with him being a silent protagonist, because you're really not adding anything else. It's just like if he says, don't worry, I'll take care of it. Could you put it on my map or on my Pip-Boy? And like then the NPCs would be like, then sure, just like give it to where like, yes, make it easy to understand what the character is gonna say, but then make them say something completely different. If you're just saying what's in the text, we can say what's in the text, especially for people who are, like recording this stuff and uploading it onto YouTube or some other platform. We could easily talk ourselves. I mean, we're very talkative, and that's supposed to be our job. But, just like stuff like that too, just also, like if you're going to be using something that you've seen in other games, and just kind of follow the form. I know you don't want to like completely rip it off, and I know people would be like, okay, you just ripped that off of Mass Effect. But honestly, if Mass Effect does it in a way that's very well done, then hey, imitation is the most sincerest form of flattery. Just go with it. Especially since you don't want it to be like generic man just saying the exact same thing that you would see in text. If I could read it, you shouldn't be saying it, stuff like that. Just make it unique in a better sense. And on top of that too, just like give better options too with that, because I've always found myself to like try and use every single option in there, especially if I wanted to try and do something charisma based that was low level and I failed, and then I'm just going through the entire wheel until there's my final option if everything's failed. And that kind of sucks, because it's just like, well, just like I've exhausted all my options trying to do the charisma percentage thing, and then I'm just stuck with this one thing right here. I'm kind of like I'm forced down a certain path. It's not like I could choose this and maybe it'll work, and it'll work and it'll open up a new path. It's just, it doesn't even matter in that sense too. I could choose like any of the 4 options, but it's still going to lead me down the exact same path, and it's just like, that's not very unique. Especially when games are starting to like learn and grow and evolve. We want to make sure that they learn, grow, and evolve, and be something that you don't really like see, or just something that's just going to force you down a pathway like this. Especially when it comes to a game that's supposed to be open world. Would you want a narrow path, especially in an open world area? No. You want to be, you want to go out on an adventure. You want to see all this stuff and just, if you want to play an action game, play an action game. But this game also too, it went down an action route very very soon. That kind of stuff. It was really weird and like not that interesting too. It was just like you had that oh my god moment, but then it was just like once you replay it, it's just like this feels like my hands being held. And what I'm talking about is Concord, like when your robot says, go to Concord, those people haven't done that much damage to me. They've only thrown rocks and sticks and junk like that. But also, too, it's just like, okay, you're holding my hand. You're forcing me down this pathway. And, people not really seeing it because this is supposed to be an adventure game, but it holds your hand to a point of being an action game, which is very weird. I mean, you go down Concord, you take care of the few bandits that are down that path. Once they're done, Preston yells at you to grab that laser musket and run inside. And it's just like, okay, I'm gonna go do that. And then it's just like like you're like non-consciously realizing that you're actually being forced down a path. This is now taking an adventure game and turning it into an action game, and it's supposed to be open world. I can do whatever I want, be whoever I want, this kind of junk like that too. But you're still forcing me down this pathway. And once you're done and you kill all the bandits in there, Preston talks to you. He says that he wants a fusion cord, so that way then he could go ahead and put it into power armor that's up on top of the roof that can rip out the minigun. And it's just like, okay, grab the fusion core, put it in the thing, pop it in there. It's just like, how exactly is it like no one else has found these power armors before or found a fusion core before? I would have liked it if these bandits were just like one of them was trying to sneakily unlock the pick or like pick the lock to where that fusion core was. So that way then you could have blown their brains out, pick the lock yourself, grab the fusion core, and then brought it with you. That would have been more interesting, especially since you're putting me down this pathway because I got to navigate through that area to get to Preston. It would have been nice if you just saw a guy just trying to pick the lock, so that way then you could have just killed him, or he would have been startled, tried to grab a gun, start trying to shoot at you. Because this whole area right here that I'm talking about is more action than adventure. And once you finally go through that and you grab the minigun, you go ahead and you just like rip it out, you take care, you jump down, which has that really cool Iron Man feel. I will give it that. It feels really awesome to just go ahead and just like boom, or like I don't know, people have played Titanfall, just like go ahead and just jump there, and you probably instantly in your mind you're like, prepare for Titanfall, and you just like slam down and just have that awesome moment. That's actually really cool and really satisfying. So you have like those cool moments and where you have it, but it's more of those cool moments that you remember from other games. So far, it hasn't really given you anything that makes Fallout 4 unique. It doesn't really give its own uniqueness at this time because it's like, grab the minigun, slam down, mow everything down in front of you, and then take care of a Deathclaw. And it's just like, okay, you have literally handed me everything in the game that I want to earn myself. I mean, you go ahead and give me power armor right off the bat. I don't have to look for anyone to teach me how to use power armor. You already give me the fusion core to power it up, but you make sure that you put a limiter on the power armor itself. You allow me to rip out a minigun that has like 1,300 rounds into it, but all those rounds are going to be thrown straight into the Deathclaw because it's like a bullet sponge. And then after that, too, you give me a Deathclaw right off the bat. It's just like there's no like select territory or location for Deathclaws. There's just Deathclaws roaming about. And I've had moments where like Deathclaws were doing that, and it instantly felt like Skyrim. But instead of dragons, I was fighting Deathclaws randomly. It's like stuff like that. It was just like, okay, this is weird. I didn't know I was in post-apocalyptic Skyrim. This doesn't really feel like it. And I've even like made a few jokes too because I faced against the Brotherhood, and you hear a few of them say for victory, and I'm like, and Sovereign Guard? I mean, hell, why not? I mean, you're throwing sweet rolls at me too. It's just like stuff like that too. It always felt like it was trying to meme so much. And memes are okay, but you shouldn't be trying to meme, okay? Like the whole thing with like the arrow in the knee, I'm guessing you didn't want that meme. It just happened because it was something in the NPC. I bet you don't have like people that are just like, this is gonna be great. You know, it's just like, no, it was just like NPC. It's the same thing too with like Oblivion, where it's just like, I fought a mud crab today. Horrible little creatures. It's like the exact same thing. And just like continuing on, but once you're finally done with that and you like defeat the Death Claw, you go back inside, talk with the settlers, and they say, "Hey, we're gonna go to Sanctuary. This is a place that, Mama Murphy told us about, and she's stoned out of her gourds and chems and junk like that too, and she could see the future or see the sight." And I've seen a few people actually do the chems and give that to her, and you listen to her a few times before the Death Claw. She's like, "Careful, there's something big coming," and just like you get those moments. And it's like, I can see the sight. And it's just like, yeah, you can see the sight. That's kind of cool and all, but you're also kind of ruining the game in sorts. Yeah, you're giving me a new option where, like, if I feed you, like, chems and junk like that too, you'll give me a whole new route to go into the game. But you're then ripping out a lot of the fun in the game too, because then it's just like, okay, here's the easy path throughout the game. And I've seen a few people online as well to where, like, they've done that, where they fed her chems, they've gotten information on such things like Skinny Malone, and where like you give her chems, she tells you like a moment if you're gonna go see Skinny Malone, and where she says to remember this moment, and as soon as you do that, Skinny Malone lets you free for a while, and you and Nick can like get out of there and junk like that. And it's just like, okay, so if you give chems, this lady's just gonna give you basically a get out of jail free card, and it's just like, well, that's not fun. I'm not fighting. I'm not doing anything actiony or adventure-y or like trying to find a way around this problem. It's just like you give me the easy solution. This sucks. Just stuff like that. And just continuing on and on and on and on and on. It's just, yeah, okay, fine. But I've only seen that, but I never really did it. And it's just like, I have no need. This lady, though, she keeps on trying to come to me and just like, I can see the sight. And it's just like, back off, NPC. I'm not talking to you. Go away. Go sleep in your bed that I put way across the other side of the map. Stuff like that. But yeah, once you finally are done with that and you talk to the group and they're just like, okay, we're going to go to Sanctuary. You meet them in Sanctuary. You talk with Preston again. You have your little heartfelt moment who he wants to bring back, the Minutemen and the settlers and the settlements always needing your help and all that junk. And everyone says that they hate that. But for me, honestly, I don't really hate it. I never really did. Yeah, I've even myself, I've cracked the joke about like, a settlement needs your help, a settlement needs your help. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And it's just like, it would be nice if at those moments too the settlements could defend themselves. Like I give all the settlers a gun, they'll take out the bandits. Or if I set up a turret system or like a missile system or something, and where like whatever hits them, if their defense is high enough, then like they won't need my help. I'll just instantly gain experience and they've taken care of those bad guys. Something like that would have been interesting. But like the whole thing of like the settlements need your help and you got to go here or there or this or that. Yeah, it's once again hand holding because it's showing you all these settlements and then they're just bringing them to you and you can't really go out and adventure yourself. I was like, yeah, I get that. That's again hand holding, and I would treat this more as an action game instead of an adventure game. But even that stuff, I had no complaints. Like, once you continue on progressing through all the boring settlement stuff, and once you finally take castle, or the castle, like Fort Independence, or the castle as they call it, as soon as you do that, all you got to do is turn on your radio, turn it over to Radio Freedom, lower your audio in the game all the way to the lowest, like going to your menu or your option screen and lowering the music. So that way then it's like really, really low. But if you have that always on, they'll give you those settlement things. And then it's just like, okay, gotta go do this, gotta do that. And then if you go with Preston for a while, and you have your heartfelt moments and junk like that too, he talks about how he doesn't want to live anymore, but I was the one that helped him out and blah, blah, blah. But once you're done with that all, then you'll stop having to go to Preston, and then it'll just be like, okay, do the settlement, talk to the people, they thank you, they'll give you the experience, and then you can go on, and it's no longer a thing of like a settlement needs your help, just none of that stuff, and like the meme then dies. Well, all you gotta do is just a little bit of work, which kind of sucks when the player has to fix a problem that shouldn't be a problem. But as far as like problems go, it's a very small problem to me. To me, honestly, it's just like I don't care about this. Yeah, I love the whole settlement building thing. Like, excuse me. The whole thing too with like, God, I've been saying like a lot too. I do apologize for that as well. But with the whole thing of where it shows you like Fallout 4, you could get 400 plus hours of gameplay. A lot of that gameplay is just settlement building, which I absolutely loved. I did. I really did. That was really the highlight of me playing this game, which was settlement building. And that is kind of bittersweet, okay? I mean, I love the settlement building stuff, but there's plenty of games that have already done that. If you wanted to do settlement building or if you wanted to do base building and junk like that too, you could go play Minecraft. You could go play Rust. Those games are pretty much doing the same. I came for the story. That's all honesty. When I come to a Fallout game, I come for the story. I don't come for the building stuff. But saying that, I have been built with the building, or have been bit by the building bug in Fallout 4. So right now I have an idea, I have a vision, and the way it's going to be going with this whole settlement thing is I'm still doing it right now, but once I finally get that out of my system and I finally built the settlements the way I wanted to and envisioned them, I'm probably never going to come back to Fallout 4 ever again. That's the disappointing thing. There really isn't anything story-wise that'll drag me back into this game, which sucks. It's just the settlement stuff, and it's really just me occupying my own time. And that, frankly, it just kind of sucks. I'm sorry. Because also, too, I also understand that this settlement building stuff is just going to be, something that occupies my time, but it has no value. I mean, me building these settlements the way I want to, it really has no value. It's kind of cool and interesting if I look at it, the whole ooh and ah kind of thing, maybe get my 10-minute YouTube video out there to showcase all this stuff. But then after that, at the end of the time, it's just in the back of my mind, it's just like, what's the point? Because it really serves no purpose. I could easily, shittily do like the Minecraft thing of where all the buildings are floating in the air. And really it would have no problem, or it wouldn't matter. It's just junk like that too. It would be nice if this stuff had a better, working feel to it. So that way then whatever I do works. Like if I build barriers to keep out the monsters, I want them to bash up against like these walls in some way and just sort of like starting to break them down, and then settlers have to go repair them. Or, when you see these settlers banging a hammer against a building, and in the show that the animation that they're repairing something, it would be nice if it actually became repaired. If someone I could talk to could actually repair or remove a lot of this stuff, like these plywood things against the buildings to make it look cleaner. Or you somehow go on a quest and you give them a rake, and then they rake up all that garbage out of the front lawn, and that's more scrap for you to work with in some way, shape, or form. But it cleans things up, and the NPCs start making the place look pristine, or you give the NPCs tasks, and then things look nicer, and stuff like that. Just keeping things working, and just like give the NPCs something to where it doesn't look like they're busy, but they actually are busy. Just items like that, which those again are really small, but for me, those are the big things, because then I would get more immersed. It's just like these NPCs, I gave them a task, they fix it, they make it look nice and pretty. Oh my god, I feel immersed now. I feel like I'm in the world. But really, it's more or less the thing of where like people who work at retail going, oh my god, the manager's here, everyone look busy. Just like the same thing here. It's just really funny, but then also too, it's just like, what's the point then? Just like, might as well make this place, look super quiet, because also too, the settlers also get in the way a lot of the time. And then it's just me accidentally killing them, and then it's just like, well, nuts. But since there's no moral compass or no problem with that too, it's just like, oops, I killed them. Let me get a new one. Just like everyone looks at me like, oh, he killed that guy. Great, what's for dinner? Just dumb stuff like that. But yeah, like the settlement stuff, like the settlement building stuff is where I found the most of my enjoyment. I'm still finding my enjoyment. I'll run over there, I'll go take care of a settlement, then I'll run straight back to the settlement that I'm building at, and I'll continue building at it, no problem. Just stop and like take care of this stuff. But it would be nice if there was moments in where like my defenses would take care of these problems and I would just gain the experience and courtesy of it. Or I'd be able to talk to settlers to turn them into soldiers. So if someone gets kidnapped, a squad of people that I've armed and made cool could then go ahead and recapture that person that got kidnapped and maybe even scavenge some loot there, and I could go to a box that I went and take all the loot. Or if I had boxes to give these NPCs more stuff, say if there was a scavenging thing, and I'd be able to put a box right next to the scavenging station so they could break down or disassemble items, it would be nice then if I could go ahead and dump all the weapons that I don't want to use into these boxes, and then they would break down the weapons into their base material. That would be fantastic. Just stuff like that. Or if there's custodial work here, and they'll start making things look more custodial. Or if somehow Sturge was the only person that could rebuild all this stuff to higher working order, and like he could take these old abandoned houses, and if I had the materials and I gave it to him, he would then repair the houses brand new before the bombs dropped to make them look super pretty and cool. Just stuff like that would have been really interesting. Or even not like super pretty, but just to the point where it looked exactly like it was, but just more rusted down. But it would still be a working, functioning house with like a roof that wouldn't be hollow looking and junk like that, but it would look like a real house. And it would have no leaks and junk like that. Stuff that would work in that sense would be pretty interesting. But yeah, like I did enjoy the settlement stuff. I still do. So there's that. And then just continuing on though with the rest of the game, after all the settlement stuff and building and junk and just continuing on because it was settlement this, settlement that, but also moving along with the actual like game and just like storyline. There isn't a lot of story moments in the game that I really, really enjoy. Like side quest. I mean, I love the side quests. I do. I really do. But like the side quests that I've gotten before, there's the USS Constitution that I talked about, and the most retarded one that I still remember, and I wish I didn't, was the fact that you were having to go to a hardware store to go ahead and make green paint to give it to someone to Diamond City so they could go ahead and paint a wall. It fucking sucked. Because that is the laziest quest I have ever seen in a game. I would have rather done fetch quest. I would have rather done anything else, but this right here is the laziest quest that I've ever seen, and I absolutely hate it. Okay, just let me find green paint. Or you know what? Let me go find the yellow paint and the blue paint. And then I go ahead and I give it to the guy. Because he already has a paint mixer because he's been doing this for so damn long that he'll then go ahead and mix the paint himself and turn it green. Just go ahead and give him the yellow and blue paint, and then he's just like, okay, hold on a moment. Let me go ahead and mix the paint. Here you go. Would you like the first coat? There you go. The wall seems to like it. Just that whole quest I hated. But it was really just me trying to go through and get the most out of my experience. Get the most bang for my buck. And I didn't. I didn't get the most bang out of my buck at all with this game. It sucked. For that sense. I would have, if I knew the game was like this, I would have waited until the price dropped to where it was like a $20 game. Then I would have enjoyed the game fine. There wouldn't be that many problems. Or too many problems that I would say. But just continuing on, just like once I finally got like whatever meager side quest out of the way, and then just moving on with the game and just getting to the actual storyline, like the Nick Valentine thing was the coolest thing. I mean, who around here didn't like the Nick Valentine quest? That thing was awesome. Having to go save him in the vault against Skinny Malone. Once you break him out, you go back to Diamond City. You sit down with him, talk about Kellogg, talk about all the situations and everything around there, and just go ahead with that whole thing, and then just keep marching forward until you have everything taken care of. And that was awesome. That was cool. And then the mini quest after that, once you were done with helping Nick Valentine, and where you had to go ahead and find what was his name, Nick White, something like that. It was that other guy that became a ghoul before ghouls were even around. He used that radiation technique, but he was a big time gangster kingpin, and you had to go ahead and take care of that because that was Nick Valentine's last thing. And just once you were all done with that, and just Nick Valentine having that existential crisis and where he didn't even know who he was or what was going on, I absolutely loved that. That was the greatest side quest in the entire game. When Nick Valentine was like one of the very best characters there. It was so cool. It really was. But then honestly, I would have been fine if like the storyline was there. It's just like you helped out Nick Valentine, done, the end. Once you continue on with the rest of the storyline and where you have to go find Sean and go deal with the railroad, and deal with all this other nonsense in the Institute, it was like, good God, I didn't like it. I don't know if I brought it along while recording, but I was trying really, really hard to push through that as quickly as possible. So that way then I could just get it done with. It was basically me saying, okay, I've got all this stuff. Take the deep breaths. Go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and rip the Band-Aid right off the leg, and just do it super quick so that way then I can continue on with doing the one thing that I really did enjoy, which was settlement building. That was my most fun. I enjoyed that. It's just, I wish, though, it wasn't. I really do. But just continuing on and just once you're finally doing all that stuff too, and the whole thing of like trying to go ahead and navigate all the way to Kellogg, good God. It really, really though wasn't like the whole thing of like of Kellogg himself. It was really more or less going to him. Because also too, when I was doing my playthrough, a long time ago I just told Dogmeat to go away. I just like here, stay in Sanctuary or Red Rocket or whatever, because every single time though when I played with the dog, it was just like he got in the way. He was always in the way. There's like these tiny corridors and where only one human being is supposed to get through, and the dog was in the way. And there's no like move, dog. It's just like you literally had to sprint through them. That was the whole thing too with like Bethesda always deals with is their NPC companions. It's just like they're in the way. So there's really no point there too. That was the reason why I was like, I love the Nick Valentine companion thing, but also too it was just like I made sure that once I did the Nick Valentine thing, because I didn't want to hate Nick Valentine, I made sure I stayed out in the open world because I wanted nothing to do with being in close surrounding areas like the Corvega factory, especially dealing with Dogmeat right there. That was annoying. So it came to the point where I was just like, I know the NPCs are gonna like stupidly run into this room. I'm just gonna crouch down with my shotgun and blow their brains out and be done with it in one false swoop. There you go. I'm done. I don't want to have to deal with this annoyance of dealing with Dogmeat. And that was stupid, but I went ahead and dumped Dogmeat off somewhere, and I thought like, oh my god, I need to go get Dogmeat now because I gotta go track Kellogg down. Yes, I'm gonna have myself an adventure to get him. Nope, they're just gonna drop him off right at the front door of Kellogg's home. And it's just like, what? I know exactly where Dogmeat is, okay? You can only put him at settlements. If people haven't done all the settlement stuff like me, or if they have, all they gotta do is systematically go through that. Where you could say it kinda sucks. Maybe then you could have put a symbol saying this companion or is at this settlement or this one. Or maybe if you had a settlement that only had your companions and they could only go there, it would just be the companion home. That would have been helpful as well since they wanted to do the settlement thing and just that would be the only settlement. But the whole thing was like I knew where Dogmeat was. I wanted to run across, the Commonwealth to go ahead and get him. Nope, they just drop him off right at the front door. This sucks. This is a game. Like all Fallout games are considered adventure games, but I've never had the ability to go on an adventure. It was always hand-holding action. If I wanted hand-holding action, I'll go play Far Cry, okay? They do that a bit better without it seeming like this is my only option. Or if I wanted an action game that was hand holding, I would go ahead and play Bioshock or Bioshock 2 because that was all linear and you only go down one path and there's like one option, but really there's like a good or evil option, so you had that too. But if I wanted that action element, I'll go play an action game. I'm playing an adventure game. I want an adventure. Do you understand? But it's just like beside that thing, it's just like, okay, go here, go do this, go do that. You get like distraction, or you get like things and where like the enemies are around. I fought some Yao Guai. I went down the tracks, Lost Boy style. I went over here. I saw bloody bandages over there. I did this. I did that. I found all of a sudden Fort Hagen. I'm in Fort Hagen. I defeat all the synths that are there. Okay, I'm trapped in Fort Hagen because I literally got lost. The level design for the building have gotten me lost more than a few times in this game. I got lost in the Corvega factory, not knowing whether or not there was a bad guy up above me or below me or which area that I had to go around. I've also gotten lost in Fort Hagen. I believe I've gotten lost in one of the Fallout shelters, maybe the one with Skinny Malone, I'm not quite sure, although that one was a little bit more linear. But there are a few places that I remember getting lost in, and they just weren't properly built. Like, yeah, these buildings, they're not like damaged or broken. Some other areas I've gotten lost into, and they're like, this is fine because the floor above crashed down onto the next floor, and now I got to find a way to navigate around that, which was kind of cool. But other ones like the Corvega factory, which didn't have that problem, was just such a nuisance trying to navigate through. And Fort Hagen was like another one of those, okay, like walls are broken down, but then there's other areas that had like chained walls, and there was a door that allows you to go straight into a car park elevator or like a car parking lot that was attached right next to it, and you're supposed to be a secure fort. I don't know. I didn't like that at all. I think I got also lost in the Forge's hideout as well, but there's a few places that got lost, and it was just like, okay, I gotta backtrack, gotta do this, gotta do that, YouTube problem. Okay, I gotta make sure I edit all this stuff out so that way then it's not a nuisance or it's not too boring for the people watching, that kind of stuff. But that right there, that's a YouTube problem. But as far as a game player's problem or an individual who is playing this game for fun or enjoyment, a lot of these areas were lost. They were very difficult to find. And an individual who's just playing this for fun, it's just like, I'm getting lost. This isn't fun. I've now got to backtrack. There's this, there's that. I don't know where I'm going, okay? I want to progress. If you're going to treat this like an action game, you better make sure that it's an action game. If you want this to be an adventure game, you better make sure that I can have an adventure and being able to search all this stuff too, okay? You can't go ahead and make an adventure game, treat it like an action game, but then after that having no way around to adventure, especially when you're adventuring in buildings, okay? The buildings themselves, they're fun, they're interesting, okay? But also, too, they were really a nuisance to navigate. If you wanted to solve that problem, I don't know, make it so that way then you have destructible walls. So if you go ahead and like plant a landmine, because landmines are pretty useless in the game, you plant a landmine on a wall, you go ahead and shoot the landmine, and then you blow out the wall, and then you could go ahead and travel through that now opened area, courtesy of it. That would have been pretty cool. But just the buildings themselves, I've gotten lost in them, and that was my most annoying thing. But also continuing on with all this stuff too, once you're finally done with that, take care of the synths, finally stop being lost in Fort Hagen, and you're finally going downstairs, and all of a sudden Kellogg, he's starting his monologue. And that's the thing too, it's just like, okay, if you've seen The Incredibles, you know exactly where this is going. He's monologuing. You know he's gonna be dying. I love that whole thing too in Incredibles though. It's just like, okay, the bad guys are monologuing. You get them when they're monologuing. But this is just like, okay, you did a better job of monologue. I can't kill you, but I can kill off whatever synths you throw at me. But once you finally get there and you have your final monologue, it's like, you're gonna die. there's no option around that. It's not like, I can forgive him, something like that. No, it's like, no, fuck it. Okay, he took my son. Just murder him, blow his brains out. I'm gonna get super high on fucking Psycho Jet, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and turn this into a fucking rave because there's gonna be lasers everywhere. Just stuff like that. And just keep on going at it. And the way it went was, if I had just a tiny little bit more of a boost on damage, I could have gotten him in like 3 seconds and it would have been done. Just junk like that. But along with all that other stuff too, once he's finally done and dead, he's just like, oh my god, he's dead. He was more machine than man. Oh god. Just stupid stuff like that too. And it's just like, once you're finally done with that too, you also came across the synths too. Not that, but also in the Arcajet area if you spoke with Paladin Dance. And that's another thing that I got to bring up, so I'm going to make sure I remember that. But just continuing on, once he's all done, it's just like, okay, we're out of leads again because I murdered the individual who did this. It would have been nice, though, if I would have been able to knock him unconscious and then drag him somewhere so that way then I could get answers, or maybe even torture him and be able to force out the information, especially if my charisma was high enough. Then I'd be able to get that information out of him so I could I can continue to progress in the story, or if my, charisma wasn't good enough, if my intelligence was high enough, I could go ahead and poison him with chems to a point where he was feeling like he's going to die to give off information, or if I was strong enough, I could go ahead and break his knees. If my perception was strong enough, I'd be able to see that he's more robotic than man and be able to start ripping out his robotic eyes in a torturous manner. If my endurance was strong enough, I'd be able to just start working his body and just being able to beat him up because I knew, courtesy of endurance, how much the body could take before he would break or die, so that way then I could get and torture the information out of him. If my agility was strong enough, I don't know, probably not. Luck, I don't know. Maybe agility and luck would be something that would implement in the other ones, but just having those other 5 as options to try and torture the information out of him if he was still alive. Find a way that if you could go ahead and not kill him, but subdue him. Maybe if you had the syringe gun to knock him unconscious and then tie him up, that kind of stuff. Or if Dog Meat could pin him down so that way then I could tackle him and tie him up, something like that. Maybe then Nick could also get closure because then he could also get some information on the Institute too if he was with you. Maybe Piper would have a new story to talk about or write about courtesy of it. Just have the companions talk about this. Maybe Preston wouldn't like my options of torture and he would frown upon this and maybe pull the gun on me going, this isn't the right way. Something like that would have been cool. But just the whole thing too, once his brain's blown out and you're like, once you're finally done having like no leads, it's just like, oh wait, Nick knows exactly where this one individual could help you out with that. My, how convenient. This game feels like it's nothing but just convenient moments, especially for me. It's just like, okay, in the very beginning, you find out that war never changes. You make your character. Oh no, someone goes ahead and tells you, courtesy of your many, years of service in the military, you get stuck in the local vault, 111. Oh my, how convenient, because I'm a military man, or I'm the spouse of a military man. Okay, I'm in the vault. Okay, seconds later, the world turns to shit. Trump pushes the button. Just kidding, I wanted to throw a joke out there really quick, okay? Continuing on. Okay, the bombs have dropped. My, how convenient, because I now have a safe spot in the vault. Okay, now I go back down to Sanctuary. Oh look, Codsworth is still alive. How convenient. Codsworth knows of a location, courtesy of knowing that Concord is perfectly fine. Oh my, Preston is there to help me out. My, how convenient. He's looking for help. We go through the whole thing. He's looking for a fusion core because there's actually power armor at the top of the location that has a minigun full of ammo, so that way then you can take care of these raiders. And a mysterious thing. My, how convenient. There's a power core right in this area. Okay, I get it all. He tells me he's going to Sanctuary. My, how convenient. I used to live in Sanctuary. Okay, he knows of settlements that need our help. Once that's all done, we're finishing up, getting all the settlements, and then after that, we're getting the castle. After that, I'm kind of stumped. Sorry. I guess then that's when I have to progress in a different part, which then takes me to Diamond City. But then Diamond City has, oh look, a detective. My, how convenient. We go ahead and talk with the actual detective. He goes ahead and he takes care of these problems, but the detective himself is kind of stuck. But if only someone could save him. I wonder who. Okay, he knows of a local vault. I go to the vault there. How convenient of me having a Pip-Boy on my hand to open up that vault door. As I continue on through that, kill all the bad guys, finally I find Nick Valentine. He says, help me out, I help you out. We go through the whole thing. He sits me down. We go ahead and talk about this. I tell him of an individual that I remember, bald with a scar. My, how convenient. The same person he's looking for, too. We find the information. We find all the stuff. I need dog meat, but I don't have him here. Conveniently enough, he's right at the front door for me to continue on with my quest. Dog meat goes ahead and takes me to Fort Hagen. Won't go through the whole thing, take care of all the bad guys in there, and then finally there's Kellogg. And then all of a sudden Kellogg is dead because I avenge him, because I'm an avenging husband or wife after their son. After that, I don't have any more leads, but conveniently enough, we have Nick Valentine, who knows of an individual, courtesy of the Memory Den. Do you see where the convenience is? I probably lost a lot of people with this already. I do apologize. But as we continue on with this convenient affair, we go ahead and talk to them, but luckily enough, or we go down to the Memory Den, unluckily enough. And the lady there complains at me because we don't really have anything, but conveniently enough, we have the hippocampus, which is full of servos and circuitries that Nick Valentine could use because he conveniently needs to go to the Memory Den as well. He's nice enough to help me out. We go ahead and take a trip down memory lane, quite literally, through Kellogg's mind. And just traveling through that. The interesting thing, though, is you could actually interact with the memories and have those moments and where he talks about himself, or he talks about his mother, or if you click on this other thing. And that was kind of interesting to hear, the backstory of Kellogg, but it was a little too late. He was already an asshole in my mind, and I would still blow his brains out every single time. Sorry. But once you go through that, he finds out, conveniently enough, that there is an ex-Institute individual known as Virgil, deep into the actual wastelands where the bombs have dropped, but you gotta go there and talk to him. Luckily enough, you go ahead and find him. You go through all this information over there, and once you finally do, you go ahead and talk to Virgil. He says that he can help you out, I think. Yeah, he can help you out. But he needs Courser chip. But you're going ahead and helping him to go ahead and help out the other lady because she needs the Courser chip, or someone else needs the Courser chip. And then you go ahead and you talk to the railroad themselves as well. And just continuing on, but luckily enough, Virgil knows conveniently enough to where a Courser is. You go through the tower, courtesy of a little radar finder. You go ahead and deal with the Courser. You kill the Courser. You take the Courser chip out. Luckily enough, or once you're done with all that stuff, you take that Courser chip back over to the dock in the Memory Den. She has no idea what to do with it, but luckily enough, conveniently enough, she knows of an individuals that are helping against the Institute, which are helping free people from the Institute, which is the railroad. Once you go through that, you go down to the area of where the railroad is. You see the manholes that have numbers. You follow the red brick road, not the yellow brick road this time around. Oh yeah, also there's a swan over there that you can kill. Yeah, I'll throw that one out. But once you're all done with that too, you follow the red brick road, you write down all the numbers, but it's just like railroad when you go to that, and with the puzzle thing, which the puzzle thing was cool, but I kind of struggled on. So yeah, the puzzle, just make sure you type out railroad. So I enjoyed the puzzle. All of a sudden you deal with the railroad, but it felt like with the railroad, they wanted everything and gave you nothing. It felt like also too that I had to be with them. I couldn't be with the Minutemen to go any farther to progress in the story, but it was just like you're with us or you're against us almost. It's just not like I can be an informant and help you out, but I'm going to stay with the Minutemen because I like the Minutemen more. But just dealing with all that stuff until finally just you get enough people to do all that stuff. Excuse me. And then once you give the courser chip, you go into the Institute, you find everything out. And the biggest twist is actually finding out that, your son is actually like a 60 or 70-year-old man. The time has passed way too far that you thought was only 10 years was 60. And that was like the biggest twist that I actually did enjoy. But just going through all the other stuff, it just felt too convenient. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel like, okay, I did this one thing, now I got to use my skills and traits to go do another thing. It always felt as if you, as the character, would keep destroying your own leads. And then going to the next thing and just destroying it, but someone, luckily enough, was helping you out with all your fuck-ups. That's what it felt like. So, there's that. And just going through it all, it was kind of interesting, but then also, too, now going through all that story and then dealing with the Institute and junk like that at the very end here, the one thing that's never really explained, because, yeah, like, Kellogg is more machine than man, but the time that he takes your son and the time that you kill him, 60 years have also passed on that, but yet he hasn't aged a single day. That's weird, okay? That's really weird, especially when your son aged 60 years, and it's not like he wouldn't want robotic, perks or anything else, because I know the synths are blueprints off of him, which is another thing too, because then the synths should look exactly like my son, and your character should get distracted the first time he meets an actual synth, and the synth tries to kill him to get that action moment. But the very first time your character sees a synth, he should have also been like, oh my god, I'm sorry, but you reminded me of something before it tries to kill you. It reminds you of like my son, or I could have swore you look like someone that I know. And then you meet your son, so then your son should look exactly like the synth robots because the synths were used because your son was used as a blueprint on the synths. But yet, of course, the synths themselves look nothing like your son. It's weird. And a lot of stuff is just like, there's plot holes in there that I would have loved to have been explained, but they're not. Like, what's the Institute's motives? What's going on with this? What's going on with that? What's this? What's that? What's this? What's that? But nothing. You get like zero explanation. Like, why are the synths, like destroying settlements? Couldn't we be friends? Also, too, you have no care for the surface because you're just going to hibernate down in the bottom of your tower. So why are you instigating fights with everyone else? When you're the Institute looking for only scientific reason, why can't you leave the people on the surface alone? None of that is explained. It's really weird. But just continuing on, too, is just like with that whole storyline, too, it just felt way too convenient. You know what would have been better with this whole thing, too? Just like going back to the very beginning. I know they wanted to have this amazing storyline that goes like this, too, but like there's so many holes or whatever. It would have been better as soon as your character would have been placed in there, and like I said before in the past, and where you never really saw like either the male or the female character. It was just always dark silhouettes, or you see like the back of their feet as they run to the vault or whatever. And even once they're finally put in the cryostasis, you never fully see their face. It's only like dark, shadowy figures or silhouettes and junk like that. And then once you finally get to being able to make your character when you're in the frozen cryostasis, what would have been interesting all throughout that thing, once you finally make it to the vault, you get like another cutscene in where you see like the scientists that are running the vault. You see that realize that they've miscalculated, or that Vault-Tec never gave them enough supplies or resources to actually survive. So then the scientists in the actual vault who are running and protecting everyone in here, it would have been nice then if they themselves would go ahead and just decide to draw straws. So then it would just be, okay, we find out we have no resources. Vault-Tec has screwed us over. We must draw straws, but we're going to go ahead and sacrifice these other people who went to the vault, and we're going to take their place in the cryo chamber so that most of us scientists could survive, so in the future we can help out the other individuals. So that right there would be pretty interesting because, of course, you're going to need scientists in the future to protect and deal with all this kind of stuff. And it would just be really interesting then if that whole thing went, and then it finally came to the point where, you're continuing on with all this stuff. You're getting all this notion. People are drawing straws, and then two people in the vault couldn't go because there's not enough cryo chambers. They'll be fighting over why exactly they're saving either me or my spouse or something like that. And then just going ahead and just deciding to deal with all this kind of crap. And then finally, when you have those two people who are drawing straws and they can't decide on who should survive, all of a sudden there's like two people left after drawing straws. Those two people have to sacrifice themselves because there's not enough room. It'll be like a woman and like a man. With the woman, like scientist, you'll see the guy give her like a cup of coffee and he'll put like a bunch of pills or lace it with pills so she would die silently in her sleep or something like that. And then with the cutscene right there, you would see then the guy sitting in front of his desk as he would be the overseer. You would just see him just with a gun to his head just going, "We sacrifice today so we may survive tomorrow." And you just hear the gun go off. It would fade to black. It would show Fallout 4. That would be a more interesting cutscene, just to start the game off. But then later on, as soon as that happened, as soon as your character, you'd already have chosen if you were a man or a woman. Like if a man, you'd see all of a sudden like the cryo chamber right across from you, which you would have seen your spouse in, as well as with your son in there. You would see that it would be empty. You would see like then your wife's body in the corner or something, and you would see that the son is nowhere around the corpses. So you have no idea what happened, but you're trying to escape out of the vault then with every other individual that's out there because all the other scientists would be alive as well. And you would be questioning the scientists going, what happened to them? What happened here? And they're like, we don't know. This spa was supposed to be a place for your wife. We have no idea. We ourselves didn't do anything. And just as soon as that would happen, they would then look to you because of your military background to go ahead and check out the vault to see whether or not it was safe enough to actually adventure through. You deal with the rad roaches. You deal with like all that other stuff, and you see the overseer dead and junk with like the gun right next to him because he pulled the trigger. But you would still get no answers to why it was empty. But then you would go throughout the whole thing too, courtesy of these scientists, because once you finally freed up the vault and made it better, this would be kind of like a compound or like an outpost to where the scientists could go to continue on their research and find out information for you. And then they themselves would tell you, it's like, okay, we scanned these local surroundings, we found, this settlement like Concord, we found this and this, maybe you could get some information over there. And you wouldn't find Codsworth because Codsworth would be dead because of the bomb, because you're waiting 200 years. I mean, 200 years and your robot is still around here, no problem. What the heck is this nonsense? But just, yeah, as you continue along, instead of just like having that, just like the scientists at this outpost, they're doing this, they talk to you, they tell you about Concord, you save all the other settlers, such as, Preston and the other people, so they go to Sanctuary. But then, like, Preston teams up with the scientists over here, which are, like, the Vault-Tec scientists, so then they themselves could be their own faction of, like, people that are looking for more scientific minds to help them out. They use Vault 111 as an outpost for them. They free it up, they make it better, they try and fix it up. You get resources for them so they can fix it themselves, that kind of stuff. But just as you continue on and progressing throughout the game, you would always go to them and they would be able to help you out, or they'd be able to scan these locations, or even being able to break through the Institute technology, because the Institute technology was comprised of Vault-Tec technology. So then these guys that you saved in the vault, if they were still alive, would be able to, well, since you saved them, they would then be able to scan the Institute's tech because it would be just like Vault-Tech's. And then you would get that interesting story of just like, this is interesting. And you would ask them, like, what's the matter? It's just like, well, we're seeing this other reading right here. It has the same kind of signature or the same type of tech that Vault-Tec uses, but it's deep underground, and it has this weirder signature to it. We have no idea what it is, but maybe you should check it out, but be careful. And then that's when you find out that the Institute is there. And you would also find out that it's your son that's still there, but your son has been manipulated against you because this other individual had killed your spouse, taken her spot in the cryo but spared your son. So that way then she could use him and manipulate him against you. So then it would be a father-son moment against each other. Or if somehow you were able to like charismatically change the way that your son thought, because he would also be around this old too, or he would be roughly about an adult around like the same age as you, because she would go ahead and tell you the story of how she already set her pod to open up about maybe 10 or 20 years ahead of your cryopods. So that way then she could get out and escape, because she already had her information about the Institute or about the CIT, and she was the one that helped to actually build up the CIT. So that way then it would be roughly about maybe 20 or 30 years old instead of like 60 years old or whatever it is. And she was the one, courtesy of her own charismaticness, being able to survive this whole thing. And you find out that she was the one that actually killed the overseer in there and took the place, killed your wife, took her spot, took your son with her, changed the way that he thought, and then you had this big epic moment of fighting her along with your son. And if you were good enough at your charisma or other stuff too, maybe persuading him, because he would be a grown-up adult now, to change his way of thinking, and then you would go up against the Institute and against this woman. And you would have this big fight against the Institute, and depending on who the other people that you saved, if you saved, you know, the Minutemen, if you saved the Brotherhood, if you saved all these other individuals, all these other factions would come together to fight against the big bad boogeyman, which was the Institute. And then once you finally got to like killing all the people off, taking the Institute, because you're going to take it for yourself. You're not going to push the button and blow it up. You just have that big moment at the very end as well when you fight her, just going, why? Why did you do all this? We could have bettered the entire world if you just kept your damn mouth shut and left us the fuck alone. You would just look her dead in the face with a gun in your hand, just going, because we sacrificed today so we may survive tomorrow. And you just blow her brains out. And that would have been a way better storyline for all this kind of stuff, instead of finding out that your son is old and dealing with all this crap and then pushing the button and dealing with all this nonsense. I would have loved it better if that was the storyline too, because these Voltec scientists, it's just like everyone's dead in the vaults and yet no one knows why. It's just the Institute people murdered them for some odd reason. But like the whole thing too was there's a lot of like pitfalls or plot holes too, because supposedly my son was pure. He didn't have any of the radiation, but we saw the bomb dropped right before we went in there, and the rush of radiation hit us. Also, too, you're trying very quickly in a short amount of time for us to get reattached to our son here, even though he's been gone for so long, but he's dying of cancer. Oh, won't you help me, Daddy? It's like, I don't care. You're evil. You're bad. I never got to teach you right from wrong. I don't care what you do. All I know is you're ruining the whole Commonwealth. But also, too, just like all this dumb stuff of just like, oh, they're the highest scientific minds, but yet, of course, they can't cure cancer. It's so dumb. It would have been nice if there was also a storyline within that, too. If, in fact, I could find someone in the Commonwealth that could cure the cancer or stop it. And there really was a thing in Fallout 4 that could have happened. If you just did the Jack Cabot quest, because they had the serum. They had the serum because it was from, Lazarus Cabot. And this serum would actually reverse the age of individuals. And they would go ahead with this refining the tonic or the serum, and you would take it, and it would cause the other individuals to go back down in age if they took this serum. Why couldn't you do this to your son? Like, the Institute was recording his growth rate for everything that this child has done. So for some odd reason, they could also have all this information. I could get the serum from him from this side quest. I could give it to him. It could reverse his age back to when he was a child or even an infant. And I, as a father or a mother, could get back that time because he was going to give me the Institute. That would have also been a great storyline, because then I could have done the Jack Cabot quest, gave it to him, reversed his aging process. That would have also reversed the cancer process too. We could have given him the serum. They could have re-recorded when exactly he was hit with cancer then, so they could actually start working on getting better information on actually finding a way to cure cancer. And then you could have just been like having the whole cutscene in where like, I saved my son. I as a father, or I as a mother, was able to get back all that lost time and be able to raise him right from wrong. And just like the whole thing of like what you choose throughout the game too would affect how he would act again in the future. And then once it finally came to that, it's just like once you were finally able to teach him right from wrong, it's just like then the Institute would change in a different direction. Maybe it would change for good. Maybe it would change for evil. But then also too, all throughout that time, the Institute would find a cure for the cancer and actually cure your son too. So it would have an even bigger like happy moment, since you want that happy moment too. So then it could be just like, I got back my lost time. Throughout that time, we had newer studies and searches into finding ways to cure the cancer, or even stop or halt the cancer. We were able to do this for my son Sean, and then I as a father was able to pass on the torch to my son to take back the Institute and take it to a better form, because, you know, we sacrifice today because we survive tomorrow. That would have been so much better. Because I absolutely hated the tagline of War Never Changes for Fallout 4. Because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense in Fallout 4. It really doesn't, okay? The whole thing with Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, with War Never Changes, is because they were going after a resource. What was the resource? It was water. Okay? Because in Fallout 3, you were getting a Gek, so that way then you could purify the water, so that way people could have clean drinking water. The Brotherhood or someone wanted to stop you and take that all for themselves. In Fallout New Vegas, people wanted the Hoover Dam because it had a fresh supply of water, but the Hoover Dam could power with electricity with all the hydrodynamics, or God, I forgot what it was called. But they had the actual dam that could actually use power, or create power and electricity, so it could power up the whole strip, or it could power up Vegas and power up Nevada and stuff like that, and help out all these other settlements and stuff too. But that was a resource. In Fallout 3 and New Vegas, it was right to say war never changed, because everyone was fighting over resources. With Fallout 4, resources were plentiful. It was more line, you know, it should have been a better tagline for Fallout 4, would have been like the storyline that I gave you right here of, you know, like, we sacrifice today so we may survive tomorrow, just to take care of those bad guys. Or an even better one to just go with the same story that Fallout 4 had would have been band together and rebuild. Because you're banding together with the Minutemen, you're banding together with all these other individuals, and then you are rebuilding because they had settlement building. It would have made the most sense. But no, it was just this whole thing of just like, okay, we're just going to go ahead and talk out of our asses because we've done this so many times, and we've got this here too, so guess what? You know, we're just going to go ahead and use the same thing. It was just a lot of cookie cutter convenience. That's what I didn't like about Fallout 4, and I really wanted to like Fallout 4, but the only thing that made me really enjoy Fallout 4 was the actual settlement building, and that's bad. Okay? I come to these games for the story. I come for the adventure. I come to go do this. I come to do that. But you went ahead and made everything so easy or convenient, or just like, whatever, we don't care, because we're Fallout 4. We have all these other games to do this. And if I knew the game was like this, I would have waited until the price dropped. Okay? And maybe a red flag for me, but I didn't care because I was so pumped to play Fallout 4. Should have been like, okay, they've also packaged Fallout 3 with Fallout 4. That should have been a flag. But I don't care because I enjoyed the other game, so I was going to get this game. I got it, you know, during midnight, you know, went to GameStop, grabbed it. It was cool. I downloaded it, all that junk, and just had a grand time with it too. But the more and more I played it, the more and more like the immersion, the more of this, the more of that, it just started fading. And that sucked because it's just like, okay, now I'm going to be hesitant when Fallout 5 comes out or the next Fallout game comes out. The only time I won't be hesitant if another Fallout game comes out is if Obsidian does it, because I really enjoyed New Vegas. So if another Fallout game comes out, if Fallout 5 comes out and I find out that Obsidian was the one that created it, I would be super pumped. But if I see just like, oh, Bethesda or someone else, I don't know. I'm going to be super skeptical. But yeah, that's just like the whole storyline for that whole thing was just like, it felt way too convenient. And when you yourself had like no more options, magically someone had options, and I hated that. But also too, while playing through the game, since there's also infinite leveling, you'll always keep leveling up, so you can go beyond that whole thing. Which I would have liked it if there was a 50 level mark, because going through and getting 3 perks on one of the items at the very bottom, it stops at level 50. Anything after that, you just keep on getting it. So it would have been nice if it was at level 50. But it would have been also nicer, too, if I didn't have only 49 levels, I actually had 50 levels. Because they start you at level 1, and then you're given 49 levels to go ahead and dink around with, or whatever. I don't know, maybe that was the exact same thing in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. I'm just nitpicking on that, but whatever. That's like a tiny thing. That's like super tiny. But just going through all that kind of stuff, too, it would have been nice if it capped at level 50. So that way then it's just like, oh, okay, I got to make a character like this. And I've been thinking about stuff, and I have something like that, and I'll give it another time. But also, too, it would have been nice if it stopped at level 50, but then also, too, there was characters in Fallout 4 that would have been able to make a tonic for you to where your character could level up farther beyond that. And I thought of a really cool way to do that, too. It's just like another scientist or another chemist, maybe someone from Vault Tech or someone else, or like another like Vault scientist. And what you had to do was you would have to give him a Nuka Quantum, you would have to give him a Fusion Core, and you would have to give him Buff Tat. And you give him those 3 items, and if you give him 3 items like that, he would turn it into a new tonic that would instantly make you go up a level automatically. So then you would go past the level cap of level 50. That would be interesting. Because I got tons of Nuka Quantum, I got tons of Fusion Cores. Buff Out and Mentats are pretty useless. Maybe Buff Out's good if I need an extra boost of health or being able to carry more. But as far as like a chem that I use in the game, I don't. The only chem I ever really used was Psycho Jet. And that was like the only thing. After that, it's just like there's no point for anything else. But yeah, I also wanted to go ahead and go through quickly. Well, not quickly, just like the whole thing too with like the perks and everything else. I've already got it like up and running. But like looking at all this stuff, a lot of them are like really easy or really basic, and then others were buffed and nerfed. Burfed. Charisma I thought was really buffed up, but after looking at all this stuff, I just kind of like stopped looking at them all. So it would have been nice if there was like better perks for that kind of stuff. Strength training, I'll just like, I like to go through them and just see, I'll give my own options of what I would do to improve upon it. Strength training itself, being able to carry more, being able to do more damage of all melee attacks, that's good by itself. Just like all the way maxed up, that's good. Perception, affect weapon accuracy, yeah, that's pretty good right there. Environmental awareness, so being able to see the characters and then being able to have weapon accuracy is good. Endurance training, total health, and action points, that's also another good one. Charisma, I would have liked this for success to persuading and dialogue. If it would have been done better to where, like, if I had, like, 6 points in charisma, then it would have been a 60% chance of this succeeding. Just make it, like, basic. Stuff like that. But still have it to where, like, since there's other, just, like, yeah, just do that. So that way then, once you get all 10 in charisma, it would be 100% on whatever you choose. So that way then you could just do that. It would have been so easy. Intelligence, it would have been nice, number of experience points earned. It would have been nice with this one, since they're going this route, if whatever points you have, say if you have only 1 point in intelligence, it would then just give you a 10% boost to your experience and then rounded down. So like everything that you do has a set base amount of experience that they give you. But then with intelligence, if you do like 5 intelligence, then it would have a 50% boost. So if something gave you 10 experience to do and you had 5 stars or 5 stars to intelligence, then it would have then been 15 points. And like if you did like all 10, it would just be double of whatever it is. So then like if something did 10 experience points, it would then be 20 instead. since that's the way they want to go with this route, and since they want to be infinite and all that junk. Agility, overall fitness and reflexes. If that was the case, then it should just be like it should like coincide with strength. So the melee weapons, or if I'm using unarmed, I punch faster or I swing a weapon faster. So like something that might be super slow, like a super sledgehammer, I'd be able to swing just as fast as like I don't know, like a medium-sized weapon like a machete or something like that. That would have been helpful. Luck, I have no problems with. Recharge rate of critical hits and all that other stuff. That was a pretty cool buff. I got nothing wrong with luck. Luck is good. Now going through all the stuff, I'm going to go down like the line. Iron Fist and stuff. I enjoyed Iron Fist because everything worked. All except for the last one where if you do a critical VAT hit, you'll paralyze an opponent. That makes like no sense. Okay. The other Fallout games, it was like a kung fu reflex perk that you would get, like you have mastered ancient warfare or ancient wasteland warfare. That makes sense. This one is just like, oh, being able to paralyze? No. What it should just be is just like, I don't know, just like being able to cripple 2 limbs at one time. So if you punch someone in the chest, maybe it'll choose like an arm that'll also cripple as well because you punch them in a critical point instead of paralyzing. It makes no sense. The disarms and everything else makes sense because you're up close and personal. Big League, I've got no problems with. Being able to Grand Slam a head off, that's awesome. That's just wasteland wackiness that I enjoy. Armor, I'm going to go with Armor, Blacksmith, Science, and what was the last one? Gun Nut perk. All 4 of these should have been placed all together in the exact same thing. It should have just been like wasteland preparedness, and it would just be in one perk area. Because, armor, you're making armor. Blacksmith, you're making melee weapons. Gun Nut, you're making guns. Science perk, you're able to create scientific weapons. Explosive, being able to make explosive weapons. Maybe make it to where, like, Blacksmith, make it to, like, Blacksmith, the Explosion Builder perk, and also Gun Nut. So, like, melee weapons, guns, and, like, explosives be able to build. Things such as armor and science should have been put together because, scientifically you're trying to find the best way to protect yourself. Heavy Gunner, I got no problems with. It's good for better hit accuracy, staggering, double damage. That's great. Strong back perk, I love the first 2 perks, being able to carry more. 3rd and 4th absolutely suck. I want to be able to use my action points. I shouldn't have to waste them to run. And then finally being able to fast travel when I have the 4th one on there. So it sucks. It should have just been only 3 on that, and just still be over encumbered so you walk slow. But on the 3rd one, you'd be able to fast travel. Simple as that. That should have been easy. Steady aim, I got no problems with. Basher, I hate that because why are you gun bashing someone if you got bullets and you got a gun? If you want to bash someone, get a melee weapon. Seriously, go get a tire iron, go get a baseball bat, go get a machete. Go ahead and get like the many plethora of melee weapons out there and go do some damage. Go hurt something. Why do you gotta waste your weapon or whatever or bash it? The only thing that would have been interesting is if you had the basher perk, if your weapons had a condition to them. So if you bash someone with your weapon, it would reduce the condition of the weapon, but the higher condition it was, the more damage it did when you bashed them. That would make sense. It would also get rid of a lot of this whole scrapping of weapons, because I actually really did enjoy conditioning. Rooted, it's another kind of worthless one because it's increasing like damage resistance in your melee and unarmed attacks deal 25% more damage. So I got to stand still to hit them, even if they're shooting at me from afar. If I use some of the other perks, such as Blitz, and I'm using the VATs to hit them then with melee or unarmed stuff, does this add to it? Or is this considered me still moving when I'm punching them in VATs? I don't know. It makes no sense. It's confusing. Pain Train, I don't like. Why would you run straight into an enemy when you could shoot them from afar? Just like, oh, I'm wearing Power Arm. I could run over there and stagger them. Or I could just have a legendary weapon that'll instantly have stagger on it. Why would I do that? Pain Train should have been instead... It should have been just like, if you're wearing power armor and you have no fusion cores, you can still move, not effortlessly, but move okay. And just add the perks up to where it came to the point where it's just like, oh, you move like it's like you're wearing nothing at all, and you could just move with power armor effortlessly, and be able to run, be able to do all this stuff while also having all the abilities of protection. That would have been way better. Then there would be no need for the fusion cores and all that junk, and it would be pretty cool. Rooted, I don't know. Just like these other ones, I can't think of anything. Basher should have just been like something for like melee weapons. And then melee weapons would do more damage or whatever. But we already have Big League, which is good for melee weapons. Something strength-wise. I don't know. I'll come back to it. I'll come back to it if I can think about it. Pickpocket, that one's good. That's great. Being able to steal weapons, being able to plant grenades, that's good, clean fun. Rifleman, I have absolutely no problem with. It's like one of the best ones. Being able to ignore 30% of target's armor and then doing double damage when it's fully maxed out, that's fantastic. Awareness is dumb. Okay, you should already be aware, and besides, what's the point of me knowing the resistance of an enemy? I'm just going to put more bullets into it. It's not like I can somehow manipulate or go past its own resistance and be able to use a weapon that I want to use. It's pointless, Besides, they give you a skull anyways next to an enemy if you know that they're stronger than you. So awareness to their weakness is just like, no, hold on, let me go to my VATS and be able to pick the perfect weapon against you. It doesn't make sense. Locksmithing is good. Should have stopped at the third one on there. The fourth one of where picks never break. You get tons of picks, okay? What's the point? Okay, let me go ahead and use my picks. It should have been like 3, and then after that they'll still break. What should happen after you get the third perk on Locksmith is you get a secret quest of someone saying, oh, you should go check out this factory, and you find like an auto hack tool. That auto hack tool would then go ahead and use up lockpicks and metal, and you'll instantly pick the lock, but you'll use up lockpicks and you'll use up metal. So you'll always need those in your inventory to instantly pick a lock. That would be interesting. Explosion expert, I like. Got no problems. The whole thing of mines and grenades shot in VATS explode for double damage is really difficult, especially courtesy of gun bash, okay? It's kind of difficult because I'm delayed on my throw, and then as soon as I throw it, I gotta instantly, I gotta time myself perfectly, super perfectly. I should have been able to instantly chuck a grenade instead of having to worry about doing a gun bash or holding it longer to do a grenade so that way the game knows it. Remove gun bash. It doesn't help. It hinders the ability of me using my VATS or being able to do some cool combo like throw a grenade, hit the VATS button instantly. Because in VATS already, grenades and other stuff fly really fast. It's not super slow. So you gotta be super timed to do that. Or you chuck it, the grenade's already on the ground, and then you shoot it on the ground. You can't throw it in air, especially in close quarters, and be able to hit it. It doesn't help. Night person perk, that sucks. I have no need for it. I mean, yeah, I get night vision while sneaking, but that sucks. It's just, whatever. It should have just been okay, during night, if you turn off the lights, you get a better sneak bonus. If you shoot out the lights without them knowing, you get a stronger sneak perk, something like that. Or you're sneaking near invisible. So who needs stealth boys? Something like that. That would have been great. Refractor, energy resistance is good. Sniper, I absolutely love. That's the reason why I'm good with the rifle guns now, because max out sniper, max out rifle, max out penetrator, max out concentrated fire, and you're unstoppable with a rifle. That's what I loved about perception. Toughness is great. All 5 of them, there you go, you're tougher. Lead belly, that's great. So no, you no longer take any radiation damage from anything when that's fully maxed out, which is amazing. Life giver, I like the 2 perks. The last one, not so much, because hey, I've got all these stim packs. I've got all this food. I really have all these healing items. So really, what is the point of me being able to instantly heal? It was cool in Fallout New Vegas in where you got the Phoenix thing and you'd be slowly healing health, but it wasn't super quick like Life Giver. That right there is just bleh. You do that, and then there's like one other one all the way down where you start healing from sunlight. Who needs food? Who needs stim packs? Who needs all this stuff then when you can instantly heal? Chem resistance, that's fantastic. Being immune to chems, that's awesome. Aqua Boy, that's pretty worthless because there's very few water puddles in here. Only time you really need Aqua Boy is if you're doing that thing for Sully, in where you would like go down and turn those 3 valves. But you can do it quickly just holding your breath, so there to that. Rad resistance is good, increased radiation, although there's not much radiation in there. It's not like super effective radiation stuff that you get. Especially when like radiation storms pop up or stuff like that, or if you're swimming through the water or lakes, stuff like that. You might find like a patch of like radioactive barrels, but then after that it's just like, meh. Adamantium skeleton, that's awesome. Having full ability of your limb damage is completely eliminated is good. Although I've had a few weird times where I've ate enough food and my limbs were healed, or even the Life Giver perk started healing my limbs, so it was like, eh. Cannibal, that's fun, interesting stuff. I wonder, since there's a lot of NPCs that are out in the world that won't go away, if Cannibal perk will allow you to eat all those NPCs so that way then they vanish from the game, because they might clutter it a bit. Just saying. Also, too, they should have gone farther into where it's not only just like ghouls and like super mutants, but also being able to eat stuff like the corpses of Mirelurks and stuff. Even though you're getting Mirelurk meat off of them, it'd be nice if you could just eat the bodies too. Stuff like that. Chitin, good fiber. Ghoulishness, that's pretty cool. Like, ghouls will start leaving you alone. You'll start being able to regenerate health off of that. Like, I know they tweaked it, but like in the very beginning of Fallout 4, since radiation was right next to your health and on it, it was in the very beginning, like, radiation would make you lose all that health. So you had to take care of your radiation. Now they've stopped that. I bet they did that so that way then Ghoulish perk would actually work. But in the very beginning, that was super annoying and also very frantic. Solar powered, great, but like second perk, you're already starting to heal your radiation, and third one, you're starting to heal health. So solar powered, along with Life Giver, who needs food? Who needs stim packs? Charisma, the Cap Collector's good. Lady Killer or Black Widow, that one's good, allowing you to persuade more in dialogue. I don't know how well that works, but hey, it'll work and you'll do more damage against the opposite sex, so cool. Lone Wanderer is fantastic. Since I hate my companions because they're always in the way, it's perfect for me. It's just fantastic because also, too, it's too much of a boost. Because second perk, you take 30% less damage being able to carry 100 weight. There should have been a perk like right underneath it to where when you're with your friend, you're able to carry just as much weight or being able to do the exact same thing. So that way then you can pick and choose either being alone or together. There should have been a perk that actually coincides exactly with it. So it'd be like Lone Wanderer, and then level 4 should have been Wandering with Friends, and then just like the exact same type of perks. Something like that. Attack Dog, that's pretty cool. Animal Friends. Animal Friends, Wasteland Whisperer, those two should have been together. Okay? Because they're still mutant animals, and they're animals nonetheless. That should have worked. What is classified then as an animal and then a mutant? I don't know. I really don't. Local leader's good, so that way then I can work on my settlement junk. If you're working on settlement, you need local leader. A little annoying, but eh. Party Boy's good, no longer addicted to alcohol, and it does more damage and gives you more luck. Inspiration for your other companions, that should have been right underneath, like that, Wanderer with Friends. That would have worked out well. With Intimidation. Intimidation should have worked well with robotics. So that way then, since the robots are like trying to be humanistic, humanoid robots could be affected in the exact same way. Medic, once again, you're making like healing items like impossible right here. Well, actually, I should go with Vans. Vans is stupid. The end. Who needs that? Just get rid of all the amount of quests that you have and just work on one quest. With the medic thing, though, it's just like once you max out medic, you fully heal from a stim pack or you fully heal from Radaway. So if I did that, there's no need for me to get food anymore. I just do medic, I do, life giver, I do, like solar powered, and then I do medic, and then I'm fantastic. I don't have to worry about anything else. Although medic is also pretty useless when I could just go ahead and drink a refreshing beverage. Gun nut, like I said with the others, that could all go together. Hacker, that's again just like lockpicking. It should have been up to the 3, and then the final one should have told you about this factory and where you'd be able to find this auto hack disk. That way, then you could plug it into computers and it would automatically hack it. You gain the experience, you pop it out, and you go on your merry way. That way, then you could get more of those holotapes that are like that, or you get like a permanent holotape that instantly hacks. That would have been fantastic. Scrapper perk. This could have been removed. Instead, it could have been something to where you would like get like that scavenging station for like settlers. Get a box, throw all the items that you want scrapped in there, and then those settlers start scrapping them, and then put the scrap and then put it into your settlements. That would have been easy. It would have been fantastic. Also, too, I should have been able to pick and choose what I find or classify stuff, or be able to classify stuff as junk. There's some stuff in the game I wish I didn't have to classify as junk, such as like money, cigarettes, cigarette cartons, or like the gold, or like stuff that I could be able to barter with. But bartering is like gone. It's non-existent from this game. So, I don't know about that, but I would like to be able to classify certain things as junk, even like weapons. So if I kept getting pipe pistols and picking them up, if I could classify certain pistols as junk, and then being able to go instantly to like a scrapper's box and be able to hit like the scrap all button and then being able to dump all that stuff so then it'll be scrapped, that would have been fantastic. It would have removed this perk as well. Same thing too with science, put it with the other perk I talked about. Chemist 1 is absolutely worthless. Why do you need, all the way maxed out, an additional 200% longer time with chems? I would be stuck in slow motion forever because all I use is Psychojet. Robotic Expert, I liked it, but I also hated it. I found a cool little cheat in where if I had a gun with like a scope on it, even like the basic scope on it, and I was super far away from a robot, I could instantly auto-hack it. But all you need is one point in there so you can just power them off and then just shoot them to death, or melee them to death, or whatever. Nuclear Physicist, learn how to split and command it. Radiation weapons do 50% more damage. Radiation weapons are pretty darn useless. They should have been able to do radiation damage, but then also be able to do some sort of like laser damage or something with it too. Like some form of damage that would actually physically hurt. Pump people with enough radiation and they're still not going down. But fusion cores last an extra 25% longer. Instead, it would be nice if like the final perk would have been just like take old fusion cores, be able to drain them, and create a new fusion core out of it. You know, like the same thing of like recycling like in New Vegas. Nerd Rage, that's pretty cool. It's just non-existent for me as well. It's just it's there. It's good though. Agility. Gunslinger, I liked it all the way to the 3rd perk. After that, being able to disarm opponents with a gunshot. You should just be able to like target their guns and vats and be able to shoot it out of their hands right off the bat. Something like that. Commando perk is really good all the way to the very end. Double damage, being able to stagger opponents, that's good. Sneak is good. I never really looked at it, but it's actually really good. So that way then I no longer like trigger enemy mines or their traps. That's actually pretty good. Mr. Sandman's worthless here. How many people have found sleeping individuals in this game? I ask you. Action Boy's good. Moving target, kind of worthless because it's all sprinting. What if I'm just moving running? It should have just been moving running. Or final perk would have been like, now you can run and get the exact same benefits. Or just like, you don't have to sprint to get the exact same benefits. Something like that. Ninja's good if you want to go stealthy. Quick Hand's good for reloads. Blitz is there if you want to get up close and personal with your melee weapons. Gun Fu I really did like, but I don't know how it works. Fortune Finder's great. Scrounger's great. Bloody Mess is awesome. All 3 of those together. Well, just like Fortune Finder and Bloody Mess together is awesome. Mysterious Stranger. Critical meter fills up even higher when you have that fully maxed out when he kills an opponent. I don't know. Idiot Savant. Fuck Idiot Savant. Okay? That shit is terrible. Alright. Put 2 perks in, be able to 5 times the experience. Third perk, I don't even know how it works. But then also, too, a lot of times when I've used this perk, I've instantly felt unimmersed because I had like one or two of those actual tender moments in the games of like, I didn't know if I'd be able to survive without you. I thank you, sir. Thank you for saving me. Oh, I'm sorry. That was my autism kicking in. I didn't mean that, but hey, I get more experience points. Fuck that. I hated Idiot Savant. I really did. Better criticals. Hey, who doesn't love that? Critical Banker. That's something where it's just like, that might be over excessive. Grim Reaper's good. Increase the action points. 4-leaf Clover. Filling your critical meters faster. Yeah. Ricochet. That's a fun wasteland perk. So yeah. I like a lot of them. Others, they needed to be grouped together. The healing items should have been dumbed down because they're too powerful. Because who needs to get food, or who needs to do this, or who needs to do that? Also, too, I would have liked it if guns were like specialized. If this would just been like a non-automatic weapon, and then this would have been an automatic weapon. But being able to pick and choose through the mods, I think I've had bugs to where like they didn't like the guns, even though I had the perks, didn't work properly. So I would have liked things if they were like stationary, like this is an automatic weapon, this is a non-automatic weapon, stuff like that. And then not even getting into the headache of like, is this a heavy weapon? Is this a non-heavy weapon? Like you would need the book, but you should easily be able to determine through your own eyes whether or not all this stuff is, like noticeable. Like there should be icons that you could like determine, that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's like a lot of stuff within it too that I wish they would have fixed up. And just, okay, if you want automatic weapons, you get automatic weapons, like stuff like that. Just, they should have kept it simple. And like other stuff too, they should have fixed up a bit more. Remove the disarm for like firing like gunslinger. Just be able to target the gun. Or if I target that arm that is like the main arm of them firing, like if the gun is in their right hand, but you see like the left hand underneath the weapon, if I target that certain arm and I cripple it, it should fling the weapon out of their hand. So then they got to go get it, stuff like that. Or like a lot of these stuff too should have just been like in other quests, like the whole thing of like lockpicking and like the auto hack tool. If you found like an instant auto hack tool somewhere, but you had to travel through the wastelands to find it or get like information to find it, that would have been cool. Intimidation, that's kind of good, like being able to hack robots, but it would have been nice if like I hacked a robot and then I would make like a station at one of my settlements, and then that robot is in that station. And then I could just use them to say, hey, go defend this location. Stuff like that. That would have been awesome. Or like intimidation perk of like I intimidated a person to like travel all the way to my settlement. He then becomes a settler, and then he's like considered fodder. And if he dies, he dies. Big deal. But there's like a lot of stuff in here too that I can't even remember getting into. But I would have liked different stuff or different perks for them. And I probably could think of more. But there's like a lot of stuff. It's not the major stuff. It's the minor stuff that I'm talking about in this game. And the reason why I'm talking so much about these minor problems is because in the past, like these minor problems were fixed in older games, in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. Like finding ice cold beers and stuff like that too. And they would always remain ice cold in your Pip-Boy instead of after a short amount of time they would stop being cold. Like in Fallout 3, where if you took your Nuka-Cola, put it in the machine, it was ice cold. It would give you more health. But after a short amount of time, it would turn into regular Nuka-Cola again. Stuff like that. I kind of miss that stuff. There was a lot of tiny details that I remember in older games, but then they ignored them in this newer game. That's the stuff I don't like, man. Like, you gotta, like, if you're gonna put yourself up to that level, keep yourself up to that level. On top of all that, too, what was the deal with all the different types of beers, ales, stouts, lagers? If you're going to give me this broad spectrum of beers, give me a quest or a thing in where I could turn into a perk, and then if I drink a certain type of beer, it would give me better perks, or it give me a temporary boost perk to something. Make it interesting like that, for the love of God. But there's like so much stuff in here too. I wish I could like think of like other stuff to like mess with it. Like the stuff with like chems, instead of like having medic where like it fully maxes out, it should have been called like the right dosage, and then like you don't become addicted anymore, and then you're like take a right dosage, and it would have better benefits, something like that. Or like the whole thing of like the legendary items too. It would have been nice if it would have just been a legendary mod. Like, you go help out a settlement, they give you caps, and then they're like, oh, take this mod too, and it would be like a legendary mod, so then you could go ahead and attach it to your favorite gun, so that way then it could be an explosive mini gun, or an explosive gun of this type, or it would have this benefit, or it'd be able to do more damage, or cause bleed damage, get all those legendaries, turn them into mods, and then instead of finding legendary creatures out in the open, they would just give the mods to you as like a benefit for saving the settlements. That would have been awesome. Just stuff like that too. Also too, there should have been like a box that I could put into the settlements, and then whatever guns, whatever armor, whatever like uniforms or whatever I put in there, the settlers would go into there, take that stuff, and then wear it or equip it or use it. That would be easy, instead of me automatically going to each individual and go, I want you to do this, I want you to do this. No, I just make a box too, so that way then the individuals that have like tons of stuff should just go, here, settlers, find what you like, put it on, protect us, that kind of stuff. That would have been cool. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff in here, and then there's a lot of like small stuff that I don't like that I would have liked to have been better. But yeah. Wow, my voice is just dying. I've been going now for like 2 hours. Jeez, can't say I don't talk. But yeah, I think that's everything I can think of in this game. If there's anything else, I'll probably make like a small video about it or something. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I like in this game. But a lot of the stuff that I really enjoy that made me gravitate to a Fallout game such as this game is story. Story and being able to adventure, but you don't have it in Fallout 4. Next game around, focus on adventure and focus on story. You guys did an amazing job in the past Fallout games, but this one is falling short. Stop making things so convenient or feeling like they're convenient. If I screw up somewhere, make it so that way then my character has to find a new pathway. Or also make it so that way then these perks work in some way to benefit me to completing the storyline. Like somehow, for some odd reason, I take Commando, and for some odd reason it allows me to like continue a storyline because Commando is like a thing or whatever. Or like if I chose a Scrounger perk and I found in a box full of ammo, I found a note saying, I should go here and do this, like something like that, because like the perks work with you in some way, shape, or form, and like that. That would be awesome. But, just continuing on with that, like Fallout games, like the next Fallout game, it needs to be adventure. This was feeling like it was too much action. And it felt too hand-holdy and too convenient. I love the settlement stuff, but Fallout isn't about settlement stuff. You could have easily had the same settlement stuff in where, like, I told a seller that I wanted it built this way, or wanted you to repair these houses, so that way then they're livable again without having a collapsed roof or something. You could have easily done that too. But yeah, improve upon the story and let me be more of an adventurer and not more of an action person, because I come to the Fallout games because of the adventure, not the action. So yeah, I think I've stopped. My voice is shredded. I feel like I've gotten everything out of my brain that I wanted to say about Fallout 4 for now. So yeah, I'm gonna end it right here. So hey, if anyone made it this far, you are pretty amazing. I'm not gonna lie. Thank you again for listening to, I guess would be a big old podcast full of rants and ideas and thoughts, and hopefully you were able to cherry pick out what I was talking about to get the right idea. I don't know. I gotta stop. I'm gonna go have, like some cough drops or an energy drink or something. I'm gonna end it right here and just say, hey, thank you guys so much for listening. Hopefully, maybe you thought of an idea to make this better yourself, or maybe I gave you a new idea to think about in this game too. Either way, thank you guys so much again for listening. I hope you have a good one, and game on, guys. See ya.